And that was the Grand Commander of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, addressing the nation from the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, in commemoration of Nigeria's 64th Independence Day anniversary. Nigeria celebrates its 64th Independence Day today, commemorating its freedom from British colonial rule in 1960. This anniversary is expected to be marked by a parade, cultural event, and the President's national address, which you have just watched. President Bola Tinubu will lead the nation in low-key festivities amid a nationwide protest for better governance and an end to economic hardship.
Now, on this special Independence Day edition of Breakfast Central, we will delve into Nigeria's 64 years of independence, reviewing the dividends of our independence, assessing the nation's progress, challenges, and prospects. As the nationwide protest commenced today, our correspondent will also provide updates from various locations, ensuring comprehensive coverage. This is Breakfast Central, and I am Osaogi Ogbonwa.
And my name is Olive Emodi. Thank you very much for joining us.
Welcome once again. Yes, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu just concluded his nationwide address to Nigerians. In his address, of course, the president highlighted a few matters, which, of course, we're going to be talking about right next. Now, joining us to discuss the president's speech is public affairs analyst and the publisher of the niche newspapers, Ikechukwu Amechi. Good morning, and thanks for joining us.
Always my pleasure, sir. Good morning.
Good to have you. We're also joined this morning by public affairs analyst Jide Johnson. Good morning, and thanks for joining us as well.
Well, happy independence to Nigeria, both in diaspora and Nigeria, and good morning to you too. Good
Absolutely.
morning. Thank you.
All right, let me just start with Jide Johnson. You know, we all watched the entirety of the speech. So let's first of all get your thoughts, on the president's speech.
Well, it was high on rhetorics, less on substance. There's no clear-cut indication to address the critical issues we are facing. I think what the president focused more was on what they have achieved in terms of cost-cutting measures and what they have added to the national reserve from 33 billion to 37 billion and clearing the debts without focusing more on the hardship that Nigerians have gone through in the last 16 months and what steps are being taken by the government to address particularly the issue of high cost of living, the high cost of energy, and the rest of it. So I think it's more like promises other than the actual programs that have been detailed out to be done in the next 1 year. That's the way.
Didn't it sound like detailing what we have achieved so far in the 16 months of the administration, and putting that as a reminder to Nigerians that we are taking steps in the right direction? Didn't you get that sense of that?
Well, President said that we have achieved peace. I challenged the president to travel throughout Nigeria without the security agents. I've said it over time. For the speaker, for the chief of staff to leave Abuja and come to Lagos and travel through the road, not by air, and then, or for the vice president to go to Borno via road, not through the air, and see whether we have the relative peace they are talking about. And there's no doubt that the challenges we are having with respect to high cost of living, high cost of food, and the rest of it is tied to insecurity, because farmers can't go to farm. Is it easy for farmers to go to farm? Those are questions that we need to ask ourselves. And the reality of what an average Nigeria is experiencing is different from what the president is experiencing. The president is within the cocoon of Aso Rock and his foreign travels. But the reality on ground does not measure up with what he is saying with respect to peace. And for peace to be in place, people must have the confidence and the trust that, okay, that peace is in place for me to travel. Before coming on set, I had conversation with 2 or 3 people talking about road travels and said I can never travel on the road to so place and so place. A friend of mine traveled to Kogi State for a burial of his professor's mother, And he came back, he said his heart was in his mouth throughout the journey. And so it's the reality on ground does not measure up with what the president is saying. That's my candid opinion.
Okay, let's bring in Mr. Akechukwu into the conversation and find out, do you share similar sentiments or you have a different opinion from what Mr. Jide Johnson has said?
I don't think that it is possible for any well-meaning Nigerian today to say he disagrees with what Jide Johnson has just said. As much as we wish ourselves happy independence anniversary, because there's nothing else to do other than to wish ourselves happy independence anniversary. But you ask yourself, what is happy about this day? 64 years down the road, what have we achieved as a nation? I listened to the president. Of course, he started by relaying out what Nigerians have been able to achieve as individuals. And I agree. Nigerians are great people. Nigerians are great achievers. And that is why all over the world, they are doing marvelous things. But as a people, as a country, what have we been able to achieve? Juxtaposed with countries, perhaps that share the same experience with us in terms of colonial rule and independence and all that. The countries that got independence in the 1960s,
Yeah.
or a little before we did, where are they today? Where are we? Countries like Malaysia, can you, in all sincerity, and these are the same countries that Nigeria was doing far better than at the time of independence. Look, the president was high on rhetoric, but there's no substance. And what Nigerians expected to hear from him was, what is he doing? I'm not too sure. No matter what he claims to have done in the last 16 months, there is any Nigerian today, except perhaps that those cocooned with him in Asorok, that you will ask the simple question, is your life better today than it was 16 months ago? No Nigerian can answer in the affirmative, can answer yes. I also listened to the president on the single most important issue facing every Nigerian today, which is the high cost of living. I had expected him to say, this is what we have done to bring down the high cost of living. What did he say? And I'm going to quote him. He said, please be assured we are implementing policies, without telling us what those policies are, what he's doing. Is it the sharing of palliatives? Ours has become a palliative economy.
Would we, because I also want us to, use some time to also look back at the 64-year journey. He's been president for 16 months now. So I hope that we'll also get to look at, our journey in the last 60 years. But for him in particular, what would you say for people who say that, Nigerians are maybe being too hard on him? He's only been there for 16 months, not enough time to actually make proper headway. And, he needs to lay certain foundations. He needs to, make certain moves, basically, that will eventually lead us, put us on the right path. You're not expecting to see immediate reduction in the cost of living in 1 year or in 2 years.
There are some issues for me. I have issues with those who hold that view. And those issues are two. One, it is hypocritical. And that's what the president has been trying to do. And his minders, they have been trying to do since October 29, 2023, which is to distance themselves from the Muhammadu Buhari administration.
Yeah.
That was an APC government, for crying out loud. And President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was the leader of APC. Now, when APC got into power, they sing song for the 8 years of the Buhari presidency, it was 16 years of PDP.
Yeah.
They did not isolate Olusegun Obasanjo, they did not isolate Late Yar'Adua or President Goodluck Jonathan. It was 16 years of PDP. So we've had over 9 years of APC. So when he comes to tell us he inherited a very bad situation, I agree, it is true. But it was a government run by APC. And that is why I say, look, in any other democracy that I know of, where the votes of the people determine who gets into office,
Yeah.
APC cannot win election, at least for now. The same way Nigerians felt that President Goodluck Jonathan had not done well and voted him out in 2015,
Yeah.
APC did far worse than PDP did. And yet you are telling me, even in Edo, last Saturday, that they won the election. How? So, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu can, as much as he wishes to, blame and also, don't forget, this is the same president. When Buhari celebrated his last birthday, said he was the greatest leader that Nigeria ever had. So, how could that leader of our dreams be the same person that presided over the ruination, which is what he just admitted now, that the economy was in ruins, security-wise, that he inherited a very bad situation. Oh. So we can't cut this president some slack in any way. We are now 16 months into his administration. Professor Olukonii, when people were assessing President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in his first 100 days in office,
Yeah.
Professor Olukonii said 100 days was too short a time, that he would make his assessment 1 year down the road. It is now 1 year and 4 months. He is yet to talk. 16 months is enough time. Also, let me also tell you another thing. Considering how we play politics in this country, the last 1 year of this administration will be used in playing the politics of 2027, which, by the way, has already
you know, the pieces are being put together here and there.
Started. By May 29th, 2025, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu would have spent 2 years. So is it the 1 year remaining until 2026 that he's going to use to fix all these problems that are there?
Okay.
I doubt it.
Let's talk about, the argument. You've just explained that the time that he has is enough time for him to have made impact. But Judy Johnson, there are those who argue that regardless of who emerged as president, that Nigeria was inevitably going to get to where it currently is because of the structures that currently exist, how we haven't yet, there hasn't been devolution of power from the center. So what would your response be to those who say that regardless of who is in power, that the country would have eventually got to the reality that it's currently experiencing?
So if they talk about the structure, what has been done about the structure in the last 16 months? That's the question you asked. And then don't forget that the APC as a party and the president as a person, in terms of using his own personal ideologies, is an advocate of devolution of power, decentralization of power. What steps have they taken in the last 16 months to address some of the issues they've raised over the years, probably that have been addressed by his Olukonii, his annual birthday Olukonii, to address some of the basic problems that we have in Nigeria to be addressed? In what way? What we have seen is also an overreach, an executive overreach by the presidency. For example, you look at this speech, there was two major issues. We said repetition is for emphasis. And when you repeat an issue, it talks about what dominates your thought. And it's about political. He said the focus has been on political economy reforms. And if you look at it, talked about what they've done, the Supreme Court judgment concerning local government, giving autonomy to the local government. That was a back-end approach to, and a backhand approach to solving that problem. That problem could have been solved not going through the courts, probably going through the National Assembly and ensuring that a bill is passed and not the Supreme Court ruling on the issue of local government autonomy. There's no doubt that we deserve to have local government autonomy. It's very, very important for development to take place in Nigeria, for the local government to be rescued from the appendage of the various state governors. But using the court to solve that problem is not the solution to that particular problem and some other problems that we have had. Another thing they are going to do, they condemned Jonathan for doing his own confab. We are going to have another 30-day.
Yes, I mean, that was a very shocking...
30 days. How are they going to select delegates into that youth confab? Is that youth confab not going to be the youth confab for the sons and the daughters of the political class? Because we have seen the great replacement by the entire political class replacing themselves in the National Assembly, in the State House of Assembly, with their sons and daughters and wives. Are you sure that this National Youth Confab is not going to be dominated by the...
So let's even imagine that the people that the delegates are selected are rightfully selected and there's no form of, corners that are being cut to select the people. Is there sense to that youth confab? Is there some logic to it? And, can we afford it?
Is there a provision for heat in the 2024 appropriation?
I think Ministry of Youth, will be able to squeeze out some.
Is there a provision? There should have been an outline. You must see that this is a stopgap measure. And some of the challenges we have is that our leaders just take decisions at their whims. That's my opinion. Not thinking it. If you are thinking of, was it part of the plan when he was contesting the election in 2023? Was it part of the agenda, or is this just a 64th anniversary birthday gift to the youth so that we can get the youth engaged and they can engage in a talk shop and we can distract them from the reality? The question Ikechukwu asks is my life better than what it was? What was my energy bill a year ago? What's my school fees a year ago? What's the cost of feeding my family a year ago? In what way has those issues been addressed? All those issues were treated on the surface, and an average Nigerian is going through heaven, not hell.
Yeah, I mean, probably important to also mention, there's currently a protest ongoing in parts of the country. I can see that in the Federal Capital Territory, there are already young Nigerians out on the streets. And of course, we would have our correspondent also bring us a live feed from the FCT, while the president, of course, Nigerians are, of course, marking their 64th independence anniversary. It maybe just paints a picture of where we are today as a country. So let's go back to Ikechukwu Amechi. There's other things that the president mentioned, as things that, achievement. He spoke about the foreign direct investment, more than $30 billion, that he mentioned. He, of course, also mentioned the achievement with regards to bandit commanders that have been killed. 33 billion in, I'm not sure what that was.
37 billion reserve.
Foreign reserve.
Exactly. Also spoke about his CNG initiatives, and of course, invitation of private sector players to also help boost that initiative, and amongst other things. Are these, so if you were going to at least celebrate a few things, will these be things that you can also put forward and say, well, we've made some progress here and there with the current administration?
The president spoke for roughly 23 minutes, and what Nigerians expected him to say are those things that in concrete terms you could say, okay, that this is true or this is not true. Look, also, we all live in this country. And we've been here in the last 16 months. 30 billion foreign direct investment. Where the president went to, where was it? Was it India or was it United Arab Emirates, and said they had promised him how many $1 billion investment? How much came in at the end of the day? we are dealing with a people who are adept at sophistry, who are adept at gaslighting the people they claim to govern. Look, how many new industries, how many new companies have come in the last 16 months? And how many companies have left our shores because of harsh economic environment in the last 16 months? All these things are measurable. You can go out there to see. The president said bandit leaders have been killed. He said over 300 of them have been killed and that we are winning the war on terror and banditry. Maybe. But the truth of the matter is that those living in IDP camps, particularly in the north central region, are still in IDP camps. All those displaced from the ancestral homes in Benue, in Plateau states, are still in IDP camps as we speak. They have not gone back. And to make matters worse, people, those who dislodged them, most of them are not Nigerians, are living in those places as we speak. As we speak, there are so many ungoverned spaces in Nigeria that this government has no control over, making mess of our sovereignty. Yes, even in the oil sector, where he's saying the deal between ExxonMobil and has been finalized. What is in it for Nigerians? Petrol price continues to increase every day. No honest average Nigerian can survive under the economic climate. It is not enough to go and borrow from Bretton Woods institutions, IMF, World Bank, all these textbook economists, and come out every other time to reel out what you think are the achievements. Like I asked earlier, is there any Nigerian whose life is better today because of the so-called reforms, great reforms of President Bola Tinubu? And like you also pointed out, I think the best answer to the claims that the president is making is the fact that as he is talking, young Nigerians are out on the streets.
Protesting.
Yeah. Protesting. And look, what Nigerians had expected President Bola Tinubu to tell them today, in concrete terms, are those things he is doing to bring down the cost of governance. There is none. And they had also expected him, the reformer he claims to be, what is he doing to bring down the cost of governance? He didn't tell us. There is nothing that he has done to bring down the cost of governance. Those in government continue to live big, while they are telling ordinary Nigerians to tighten their belts. For how long will that continue? That is the question he needs to answer. Look, it is easy to write beautiful, flowery speeches.
Yeah.
What impact do those speeches make on the living conditions of the people? The cost of drugs are still high.
Higher than they've ever been.
Yeah.
I mean, there's almost no aspect, or cost of, living metric that is not the worst that it has ever been. From petrol to electricity to medicine to food, housing prices, every single aspect of our lives, is a lot higher than it has ever been.
Is there any Nigerian who, after listening to this speech today, that will go home and sleep well to say, well, I see
what he's done? So maybe I should even bring Mr. Jide Johnson to the conversation. Is there a way that the president, is there a way this speech could have been better? I mean, you talk...
providing us with details of the foreign direct investment, the 30 billion, sectoral details, which sector, like he asked. Is in the oil and gas sector, is in the education sector, is in the manufacturing sector. The only thing that can grow your economy, and I love what the president said, spoke about John Deere tractors that they bought. It's a major conversation in the American presidential election, where one of the candidates said if John Deere should go to Mexico and establish their factory, he's going to impose tariff on it. Now, you can't grow your economy, your manufacturing sector. It's not growing. And like Amechi asked earlier, which manufacturing sector has grown within the last 16 months or within the last 8 years or the 9 years of I think what will have done us a lot of good is for the president to provide us with details. The details of what we have done, the details of what we have done.
I think details, does it count as detail here? Sorry, before you butt in. Like, for example, he talked about the response to the disasters, the flooding that's been happened. He talked about him visiting vice president. Visitation
and then setting up and doing integrity test for the dam.
Yes.
You know, the flooding has always been a yearly reoccurrence. The one that happened in the northeast and part of north central. You know what happened with the Cameroon Dam earlier this year in the southwest and Kogi and north central and what happened? So the bottom line is provide details, and some of these details could have even been done by the president's ministers during their press conferences. Are the ministers even talking? Now, you said you've killed 300 bandit leaders. Do you have any record concerning that? Was that provided by the police into the public domain? I'm sure this is the first time majority of us are hearing it, that, okay, we have succeeded in annihilating 300 bandit leaders, and in the process of that, we are reducing the influence of the bandits on the Nigerian space. So, as far as, there's no doubt that the president, in a speech, read out some of the achievement in terms of increasing from 33 billion to 37 billion. But the bottom line is, what about the increases in the taxation and the various tariffs that Nigerians are paying? The electricity bill. In the history of Nigeria, there's never been any ban. Discrimination concerning electricity. In the history of Nigeria, there has never been any issue like that services that is meant to be provided to every citizen is now graded. Band A, band B,
so there's an
band
inequality.
C. Exactly. There's an inequality. The system has created an inequality. And this does not augur well for this particular administration. I think providing those details will have addressed a lot of, other than that, I think most of it are just rhetoric.
So the cost of living, question, would almost never go away. Everybody wants an improved cost of living. But in response to Jide Johnson, some people might argue that no matter what details the president gives, there's people who would still not find it, good enough. Even if the president said from this $30 billion foreign direct investment, we've received 11 billion, in the oil and gas sector, from this company who is investing here. We received, 5 billion into our education sector from, these, funding here and there and all of that. That would still not be good enough for people who just do not believe in the current administration. So what are some signs, right, that the average Nigerian should feel or should experience, that would give them clarity that, yes, we truly have received an improved foreign direct investment, our economy is stable, things are seemingly better, currently, in the current administration. What are some of the signs that,
everything rises and falls on leadership, according to John Maxwell, in terms of their own lifestyle. They are living an ostentatious lifestyle. We are asked to cut, to tighten our belt, and we are seeing a situation whereby the president got a yacht, got a presidential jet, got a limousine, and the vice president got a new building, and the National Assembly got their cars, and then the president, you see the awards that were given. Who are those that are given award? The you can see those that are elected into public office rewarding themselves, not even at the end of their tenure, in the midst of their tenure, who giving award to the Chief Justice that was just newly appointed, the Senate President that has been there, so this Deputy Speaker and the rest of it. So when Nigerians see this, they say children do what they see their parents do and not what they see. Now, when the president is saying something to Nigerians, and especially Nigerians to do it, and those in government are doing contrary to what he's saying, then it does not give you the confidence to do that. You look at it, it was a government that promised reduction in cost of governance. What has this government done? We have never seen any cabinet as wieldy as this cabinet before. And
I'm glad that you mentioned the cabinet. We'll come back from a very short break, and when we come back, we'll talk about the cabinet, because there's been talks about the potential reshuffling or rejigging of the cabinet. So we'll get your thoughts. We're on a very quick break, and when we come back, the conversation continues.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central this morning as Nigeria celebrates its 64th Independence Day. We, of course, have been joined this morning having very important conversations, x-raying and reviewing the president's speech on the 64th Independence Day. But before we get back to these discussions, let's quickly join Bettina Nwele, who is live at the Ikeja Underbridge, as it is popularly called, at the protest ground, as young Nigerians have decided to choose today as a day to protest and express their grievances at the Nigerian government. Bettina, good morning. Quickly share with us, your exact location and what the situation is over there. Where exactly are you?
The Ikeja Bridge, where Nigerians have gathered on Independence Day, 64 years after our independence, and the complaints are still the same. People are complaining about their daily living, how businesses are unable to move forward, how people are finding it difficult to eat, and how it almost looks like the government has forgotten about the citizens. I have one of the protesters here who will speak to us this morning and tell us what he feels about being a Nigerian 64 years after independence. Good morning, sir. Please tell us your names.
My name is Gideon Adeyemi.
All right, sir. Mr. Gideon, tell us why we are here today. What is this protest all about on Independence Day, 64 years after our independence?
Well, while the ruling elite are gathering to display flagrant opulence, to celebrate how they have accumulated wealth, how they have deepened inequality over the years, we are on the streets protesting the worsening of the condition of the working people of Nigeria over the past 64 years. What we have seen over the past 64 years is the increasing worsening of our lot as working people. We have seen a situation in which poverty rate has continued to increase. We have seen a situation in which access to basic services has continued to reduce, such that education is almost totally inaccessible for the child of the common man today, such that food is almost inaccessible for the bulk of Nigerian people today. We have too many of our people sleeping on the streets who are homeless today. That is the situation we are in today. We have a situation in which, just name it, healthcare is almost totally inaccessible. We have always been saying that it takes just a single health problem to ruin all of one's savings and all of one's life today, because healthcare has become so costly. Life has become almost totally unbearable and unlivable for the mass of the Nigerian people. And that's why we are on the street today to say enough of the worsening of our situation as working people. We want better life. We want access to healthcare. We want access to education. We want access to even water. Water has become almost totally inaccessible even today. So that you have to pay heavily to either buy pure water or to buy from Merua. This is where we are today. And if it is possible, they will have even privatized here. And that's what we are witnessing. I'm saying enough is enough of this hardship. Enough is enough of the worsening of our situation. We want better lives. We want our children to be able to go to school. We want people to be able to access health care. We want people to have our housing and stop living under the bridge. Here at Ikeja Underbridge that we have, you know how many the number of people who sleep under the bridge here? So this is what we are saying. That enough of this situation. We want better lives for our people.
All right, thank you very much, sir. I have another person here, another protester who is also here to tell us why she feels the need for Nigerians to gather here this morning. Good morning, ma'am. Tell us your names, please.
My name is Zukora Ibe.
All right, so tell us, why do you think Nigerians have the need to gather here today, 64 years after independence? One would assume that, Nigerians will just, have this celebration like we usually do, but Nigerians are not happy. So tell us, what are the demands of this protest?
Well, Nigerians are here today to celebrate their survival against the massive onslaught of anti-poor policies that this government has wrought on them since its emergence. Nigerians are here to say that despite celebrating 64 years of independence, there is nothing independent about the people that cannot feed, nothing independent about the people that cannot go to school, nothing independent about the people whose security is not assured. So Nigerians are here to make their grievances known to the government. Nigerians are also here to say that there is nothing independent about citizens who cannot speak freely without being charged for treason or say their minds without getting arrested and kidnapped by the government. So Nigerians are here to denounce all anti-poor policies of the government, to denounce the wicked policies and pattern of the government to kidnap poor young people struggling for their lives, surviving under everything that has been put against them. Nigerians are here to say that it is not fair, and this government must divorce itself from every policy that it has brought in place so far to ravish Nigerians, to wreck them to the barest minimum. We are saying that we can no longer tolerate it. And when people are pushed to the wall, one day something has to give way, and the government has to take notice. This is a notice on the Nigerian government that one day its time will come. This is the 64th anniversary of the country, but there's nothing to celebrate. The government can do well by going back and looking into its drawing book and seeing everywhere it has gone wrong and begin to make things right. First, the government must begin to rethink the wicked removal of fuel subsidy that has done nothing but to reduce the living conditions of Nigeria to minimum. Many young people have had to quit their jobs because they can no longer afford to pay expensive transport to work. They can no longer go to work and receive little salary for nothing. Many young people have had to live under the stressful conditions, sell their bodies because they can no longer afford to live under such conditions that have reduced them to nothing. The government must remove fuel subsidy. The government must also rethink the student loan that it has brought to people and say that that's the panacea for the education system in Nigeria. The student loan is no panacea. Nigerian students do not need loan. Nigerian students need grants for them to go to school. An interview conducted across schools in country show that people are not even taking the loan. Well, people are taking the loan, but so many people are not taking the loan because they are afraid of receiving loans that they cannot pay in future where jobs are not guaranteed for them. So Nigerian students do not want loan. Nigerian students need grants for them to be able to go to school. Nigeria needs the government to be honest about what it is doing with the refineries. This is a capitalist system that has done nothing but take and accumulate all the wealth and resources of this country for itself without the benefit of the poor. So we must get our refineries working and show the people that we can be honest and government can work for the people. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Ma. There you have it, Osaruge and Olive. The people are protesting hunger, they're protesting livelihood, they're protesting healthcare. The list is endless. We'll continue to follow up with the update here and see how the protests
before you go, what's the
security is present, and hopefully it doesn't go out of hand.
Yeah, I don't know if you can hear us. I also wanted to clarify what the numbers are looking like there. Do we have, hundreds, maybe thousands of people? And, also what has been the response of the police so far?
The network is really bad, but I'll bring you more updates as we get them.
Oh, thank you very much, Bettina. We'll definitely reconnect with you. Now let's bring conversation back into the studio. We're still joined by Jide Johnson and Ikechukwu Amechi. You heard these Nigerians, in a way, re-echoing some of the things that you both have said in the studio. And, it's quite it's frustrating to see what the current realities are. I'd probably like you to react to that. And I don't know if, I had asked you earlier, Jide Johnson, if there was a way the speech could be better. And you said detailing the plans would have made the speech any better. And I want to bring that back to you as well, Mr. Ikechukwu Amechi. You talked about how the current realities don't match what the president is talking about. But could there have been maybe more empathy shown in the speech? Would that have shown any difference? The empathy shown in the speech currently, some have said is not enough or they are tired of empathy. Could there have been more empathy shown?
Look, let me go back to the question Osa asked Jide last time, which is what is it that Nigerians would have expected? Look, it is the economy, stupid, as the former president of the United States, Bill Clinton, said. The only question, and this has been highlighted by the two protesters that just spoke now, the cost of living. If you know what is going on in the American politics now, despite everything, Donald Trump is still ahead of Kamala Harris on the issue of economy. Why? Because despite everything that Biden has done in the last 3.5 years, the question the Americans are asking themselves is the cost of governance. The cost of living, the rising cost of living. Are they better off today
than they were 4 years
ago? Than they were 3.5 years ago? Can they go to a shopping mall and get the things they want to get? Now, we are talking of a President Bola Ahmed Tinubu that has presided over an inflation that is now in almost 40% food inflation, 30-something percent inflation. We are talking about a people that can no longer send their children to school. Already we have out-of-school children crisis. Yeah. Nigeria is about the worst now in the whole world with out-of-school children. Imagine what it will be with the way things are going on now. Nigeria overthrew India as the poverty capital of the world. Before Buhari left, we had over 130 million Nigerians in multi-dimensional poverty. Today, it is worse. So when President Bola Tinubu comes out to, because what he just said, as far as I'm concerned, they are mere platitudes. They don't address any of the issues. Nigerians expect transparency and accountability from this government. These two values are lacking in the way President Bola Tinubu has handled the affairs of the state in the last 16 months. There's no accountability, there's no transparency, and the people are worse off today, politically, economically, socially, than they were 16 months ago.
Okay, I want to go back to the question that I asked before we went to Bettina, talking about the cabinet reshuffle. He said that there's a lacking in transparency and accountability. There are talks of a likelihood of a ministerial reshuffle. We had the ministerial update some months back, which many people said maybe didn't yield much. There are those who think that a ministerial reshuffle or a cabinet reshuffle will be a ray of light. Abubakar Galadima thinks that it's effort in futility. I'd like to find out what your thoughts are regarding
First
that.
and foremost, you need to downsize the size of the cabinet. What can you achieve in a cabinet of close to about 60 people having meetings just for 3, 4, 5 hours on a weekly basis or monthly basis? So the cabinet is too wealthy. You check the American cabinet, it's just 12 secretaries. What made it 13 was when the Homeland Security was created. So you have 13 ministers in the United States of America. As big as the United States is only 13 ministers, which they call secretaries. Now in Nigeria, you have ministers of different kind of nomenclature we have never seen that existed in Nigeria: blue economy, green economy, yellow economy, and the rest of it. And then you just discover that it's just to create opportunities for the boys. And There's no clear-cut direction. In the past, you know, what we used to do, the quizzes we used to do in primary school, when we do social studies, that we used to recite the names of ministers and the rest of it. I'm not too sure children of primary school age will be able to know the names of all the ministers in Nigeria like we used to know while we were young. So the cabinet is too wieldy, and there's a need to cut it down beyond reshuffling of the cabinet. And then don't also forget that they said it was not going to be business as usual. We waited for 6 months for Buhari to set up his cabinet, which later backfired on his administration because he didn't get his cabinet running. And Tinubu too, we waited and we thought that, okay, after a while he will set up cabinet. It was just full of the political class. There were no people with business experiences in that cabinet. And the cabinet is so narrow and so, I'm from Lagos State and I speak from this perspective. The idea we use to run Lagos State, we can't use it to run Nigeria. The core of that cabinet is from Lagos State. We are people that were at the ends of affairs in Lagos State. And most of them, between 1999 and 2007, that they were in cabinet, they never did anything meaningful. After they left the cabinet with the president in 2017, until they came back in 2023. And you can't use the ideas of 2007 or 2003 to run the race of 2023. There's a particular saying in my local dialect. It is the dog of today that knows how to do the hunting of today. So there's a need for the president to enlarge the scope. When people talk, okay, the concept is Emilokon. Oh, I'm from the Southwest. I'm from Lagos State. I'm a Lagosian. Okay, it's our turn. Even the scope of the cabinet is, the spread is not to the entire Southwest, is to the Lagos. And the president needs to get people that can look him into the face and tell him, Mr. President, this is what you need to do. Not the current crop of ministers that he himself appointed into his cabinet in Lagos State, that he himself developed politically. So I don't think they have that confidence to tell him that, Mr. President, what you are doing is wrong. Mr. President, this is the kind of advice that you need. I'll close with this. You know what the ruler of Dubai said, Sheikh Al Maktoum, in one of his books, My Vision? He said, as a leader, you don't need anybody to tell you that you're a leader, because you know you are a leader. You must get yourself people that should be able to tell you what you need to know about what you need to do, not people that will just be sycophants and massaging your ego that you're a leader. That if you need people that are following you to tell you that you're a leader, then you are no longer a leader.
All right, let's quickly go back to Ikechukwu Amechi. And, you know, I thought it was important that we also, you know, add this to the conversation. You know, as we review the president's speech and the president's performance so far, there's definitely still people who agree that the president's on the right path. You know, it might be a little rough for a bit, but we're on the right path, you know, and Nigerians need to bear and tighten their belts on all of that. But let's, you know, have a quick analysis on Nigeria 64 years later, and the strength of our nation after 64 years. A couple of days after the Edo State election, one of the things that I saw, you know, and a lot of people saw and reacted to, for me, one of the most shocking, disgusting things was the candidate of the APC in Edo State, who after winning the election went to see Mr. President, and you can see a long line of all of them kneeling down to greet Mr. President. Some people said, well, it's Yoruba culture, you know, you need to use respect and all of that. But for me, and a couple other people who also, you know, I read their views on it, they interpreted it as, this is where we are 64 years after independence. This shows, you know, where Nigeria is, and the thinking and the mentality and the seeming state capture, basically, that we seem to have got into. So do you agree with that? And does that show you a clear side of where we've gotten to under the current administration?
Also, let me correct you. It is not seeming state capture. What we'll have is full and unmitigated state capture. You know, a friend of mine threw a jab at, what do you call him now, Senator Monday Obebolo. He said that is the sign of a man who is going to govern on his knees. It is a metaphor. what he did was the sign of a man who is going to govern on his knees.
And you can't even argue with that, because it happened with Kogi also.
And you see, you asking, this is where we are. We have created gods out of men. And that's why this system continues to get worse every day. Because leaders who are supposed to be servants of the people are now elevated to the pantheon of gods that they are worshipped, literally. They are worshipped. That is why people no longer, El-Rufai, by the way, started it under Muhammadu Buhari. You're going to greet the president, you kneel down.
But isn't that, in a way, sometimes, I mean, some would argue that it's a reflection of our culture?
It is not. It is not. I am not too sure that Sheyi Tinubu, anytime he's going to greet his father, we need her to greet him. It is not. What they are doing is mere eye service. It is not. Look, and in any case, Bola said it was Tinubu's benevolence that made him governor. Tinubu had no vote in Edo State, didn't vote.
Yeah.
We now have a democracy. We are the only thing. People every day come to tell you, I made this person governor. Nobody talks about the electorate, the people whose sovereign will, as expressed through the ballot box, should determine who occupies which office. Nyesom Wike was there on Saturday saying how
He made Sim Fubara
governor. Where we are the people of Rivers State, election is conducted, everybody is going to thank the president. What role did the president play in making somebody governor of Imo State or governor of this? Look.
Well, if it's Edo State, maybe it's showing support. For example, tweeting with the presidential handle to say that they should throw their support behind it.
That in a democracy, the people that should be thanked are those who voted, because that is what determines. And this is why the Obebolo is being led all over the place, like as if he's a servant, an heir to Adams Oshomole. Going to kneel down signifies something very fundamental. It shows how low this country, the leadership class, how low they have brought down this country. Yeah. And it will continue, because this dictatorship that we are seeing now, everybody must kowtow, otherwise you are destroyed. And that is why they will accuse the NEFC president of treason and terrorism financing. That is why when you protest, they will arrest you and charge you for treason. A sentence that is punishable by death is now what protesting attracts. And these are people, unfortunately, who made their mark
through Nadeko,
through protest. On television yesterday, somebody brought out an article that was written by Bayo Onanoga sometime in 1999, 6 weeks after General Olusegun Obasanjo became president. That article was titled 6 weeks after, there is nothing to show. 6 weeks. Well, now we're talking about 16 months. And people are saying, wait, what are we waiting for? That the good days are ahead. When will this day of Nigeria's Eldorado, When will it come?
And you're not the only one who's asked this question. Nigerians have also asked this question online, especially as we've started to see reactions to the president's speech. So we'll take a few tweets that we've seen on X detailing what they feel about the president's speech. This one is from Film Media. It says, the president acknowledges the rising cost of food and framed it to be a global challenge. I was expecting to hear policies towards mitigating this high cost of living, but he obviously didn't address that. Clearly, we will continue to experience hike with this clueless leader. Anyway, the next one says, there is nothing to celebrate. The streets are dried, food prices and petrol has gone above 1,200 naira, so there is nothing to celebrate, Mr. President. Absolutely nothing, Mr. President, from Olivia Chigozirian. Nigeria is an explosive waiting to explode. We have lost virtually all our homes, our families, and our children. Every person with human feelings should be saddened with the reality of what Nigeria has become under this failed government, Ahmad says. And then we have another tweet. Buhari took us into several recessions without yielding results during his 8 years. And now you have followed the same line that will never make an impact. You continue to play deaf ears to the fuel hike, and you think Nigerians should enjoy the ride without recourse. And these are some of the reactions that Nigerians have had to the president's president's speech. And I don't think that that's a reaction that is unexpected, because it's the same thought process that has been re-echoed in this studio, that the reality of what is a far cry from what the speech is detailing. And you can't keep telling people, be patient, be patient. For how long are they going to be patient for? Now there are protests that are, going on around the country, in different parts of the country. We took our correspondent Bettina and Wiley. Jide Johnson, how effective do you think a protest will be in achieving the demands that are being asked for, especially looking at the last protest and how a number of them were charged for treason and how the protest was quote-unquote hijacked? How effective do you foresee this Fearless in October protest?
Some said we are in a democracy. I said, no, we are not in a democracy. Because the tenets of democracy is the majority will have their way and the minority will have their say. We are seeing a situation whereby there's a clampdown on dissenting view. The good element of democracy is consenting and dissenting view, engaging marketplace of ideas, and the substituting idea outweighs the contending ideas. But we've seen that there are some tendencies by those that are occupying public offices to stifle dissent, to stifle opposition and the expression of different, what people have called state capture, and that will not go well for democracy. Imagine what it will have been if there was no opposition, PDP had embarked on the kind of trajectory we are going now in Nigeria in the last 1 year. Let me give you a classic example from where we stopped, where Amici stopped concerning the question you asked. Let's look at the election that has been conducted under this present administration. Are there anything to write home about? Does it give you confidence moving forward for 2027 election? Is it not a reflection of what happened in 2003 to 2007? And then we felt that we have moved away from. You saw what happened in Imo, the off-cycle election in Imo, in Bayelsa, in Kogi, and then to add salt to the injury, you saw what happened in Edo State, and stuff that you spoke about. There are people kneeling down. Even in Yoruba culture, it's not even, you are not even allowed to kneel down. Ibale does not prostrate. Let me put it that way. Let me even put it in context. Ibale is a local head. The king is the head. Ibale does not even prostrate for the king. It takes a bow concerning that. And you saw why all of them went and lined up and they were kneeling down for the president. It seems even those military head of state that we had, that later became civilian, are more disciplined, are more democratic, and not autocratic, autocratic than the ones, the civilians that we have put in power. And if we go on this trajectory, I can assure you, some have said it's not possible. We just go the route of Rwanda, we go the route of Cameroon, you go the route of Equatorial Guinea, you go the route of Turkey, and you go the route of Russia. If you think it's not possible for you to have extended tenures across board and across that level. You see, it is not the level of people that you see outside protesting that are actually protesting. In the history of Nigeria, there has never been any administration that has been bedeviled in its first 16 months of his administration with public discontent like this administration. And I stand to be challenged. Sitting at home is protest. That what they are doing outside is rally. If you go and ask and interview people, it's not everybody that goes to rally. When you go out, people tend to equate protest with rally. Are you getting my point? Now, a lot of Nigerians are protesting by just sitting down at home and not going out for the rally that you see under that bridge, because the security of those that are going out for the rally is not guaranteed. But where you have a situation whereby in the democratic space, whereby it is required of the democratic institutions to make provisions for the security of lives and property of those that have expressed dissent. Dissent is a critical element of them. Even in Yoruba culture that I am from, he said all of us cannot sleep and put our head in order. That means that somebody must disagree. Even God in his book said, come, let us reason together, which is emphasizing the fact that there are people that can even disagree with God. And the ultimate power that God has given to man is the power of choice. He says, see, I lay before you life and death. Make your choice. Any culture that does not allow for dissent is not ready for growth. And that's why we have challenges in our various states. And that's why we're having challenges in Nigeria. When Buhari was president, if you criticize Buhari, they said you want to be part of the 16 years corruption. You are a beneficiary of that corruption. And that's how they used to silence people from criticizing Buhari. When Buhari was taking loan after loan, was doing, and 8 years after, those that said you should keep quiet are the ones saying that, we didn't know that Buhari messed up the economy.
We're starting to see a replay of the scripts. Even the Buhari that we're speaking about, this current administration, part of their campaign strategy was that they're coming to build on what Buhari had done. But now all of a sudden the administration has left the country in shambles. But we'll continue the conversations all through this morning. So please stay with us. Thank you so much, Idi Johnson. And thank you, Kechukwu Amechi, for joining us this morning.
Thanks for your time.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Morning.
All right. Nigeria discovered crude oil in 1956, a development that would change the country's economic trajectory and position as it is the leader of the continent. The discovery of oil in Oloibiri is what is now Bayelsa State was touted as a game changer and the keystone that will support Nigeria's aspirations after independence. But even if oil in all its splendor did provide prosperity, it also sparked an over-reliance that caused other industries, most notably agriculture, to collapse. Nigeria is currently battling to diversify its economy and resolve the divisive problem of resource control. News Central's business editor, Nasir Agbalaya, compiled this report looking at the country's economic trajectory since independence.
The discovery of crude oil in Nigeria's present-day Bayelsa brought about prosperity to the nation, but it also clouded the managers of Nigeria's Commonwealth into forsaking the initial geese that had been laying the golden egg, agriculture.
The discovery of oil in 1958 did not exactly become an albatross on the economy until towards the early 1970s, when we had the first global increase in crude oil prices around 1973. Obviously, the influx of funding and capital from the oil and gas sector meant that it became the largest part of the Nigerian economy. At some point, remember that oil and gas was actually contributing up to 50% of our GDP.
As oil revenues increased, agriculture and other sectors fell into neglect. Oil boom led to what economists call Dutch disease, where a single commodity's success causes a country's other industries to decline. Instead of nurturing the agricultural legacy that had sustained Nigeria for long, the government shifted focus solely to oil. By the 1980s, oil accounted for over 90% of export earnings and a significant portion of the national GDP.
So I think we just haven't learned because we became lazy. And of course, there's one key word that I like speaking about: consequences and accountability. I think over the last couple of years, we have become a country that lacks accountability. People get into positions of authority, they spend their tenure, they leave, we all complain, but nothing happens to anybody. Nobody's held to account.
Before oil, Nigeria's economy was diverse. Granite, cocoa, and palm oil exports put the country on the global economic map. However, the shift towards oil relegated these sectors to the background, leading to massive unemployment and rural to urban migration. Industrialization slowed and Nigeria became dependent on imported food and manufactured goods.
The first thing that obviously drove our over-reliance was the sheer size of the oil and gas industry relative to the Nigerian economy. At some point, oil was 98% of Nigeria's exports and probably about 50-60% of government revenues. So now think about it this way: as a businessman, if you were running a business and you had a particular product that was providing 98% of your external earnings, the tendency is you are going to focus your attention on it. It's what we call the law of comparative advantage in economics.
Diversification has been a challenge for us, and for so many reasons. First and foremost is what I call inertia. For most people, when you already have a cash cow, in a manner of speaking, oil revenue is like a cash cow for the Federation. You know, having the will to step away from that and then focus on other sources of revenue, it's something that not everybody has the strength to do so.
However, the road to diversification is fraught with challenges: infrastructural deficits, corruption, and over-reliance on oil revenues continue to impede progress. The lack of political will to fully implement diversification policies has also been a major stumbling block.
The impact was, people just started to focus more on the rent-seeking part of the economy. And that's one part we need to talk about, Nazar. What happened is that because it paid people more to do business with government, it was your path to riches was more assured if you are doing business with government. What happened was that entrepreneurs started to pivot from providing goods and services to the third parties or to the economy and became more like government rent seekers. So everyone became a briefcase businessman that flew to Abuja to chase a contract.
You're aware of the energy transition drive and what's going on globally. Access to financing has also become a challenge for us. All those has then mitigated against. So we are now at a pace where we are even struggling to increase our oil production, talk less of being able to diversify away from oil. But we are at the stage where we are actually trying to ramp up production first. We can't even meet up to the OPEC quotas that we have at the moment before we then diversify. Thankfully, government has identified natural gas as one of the key pivots that we can use to sort of both satisfy our energy transition drives at the same time grow other sectors of the economy. But that again is also capital intensive. It has not been easy. The fund flow hasn't just been coming the way we want it to be. But I think if government just keeps pushing, I think perchance with time we should be able to gather a bit of momentum in that regard.
Over-reliance on oil has led to the decay of pre-independence industries, while diversification efforts remain difficult to achieve. As Nigeria looks to the future, the politics of resource control will play a critical role in determining how best to manage its natural wealth. The country's ability to navigate these challenges will shape its economic trajectory for decades to come.
Welcome back. Since gaining independence, Nigeria has made significant strides in development. The nation transitioned from military rule to democracy in 1999. Regular elections have since been conducted from then, demonstrating the country's commitment to democratic principles. On the global stage, Nigeria has assumed leadership roles in regional and international organizations such as the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, African Union, AU, and United Nations, UN.
Nigeria's population has grown significantly from 45 million in 1960 to 200 million plus in 2024, presenting opportunities for economic development. However, While Nigeria may be referred to as the largest African economy, it doesn't mean it's the most prosperous, as challenges persist, including security concerns, tribal bigotry, infrastructure deficits, and of course, economic retrogression. To discuss the dividends of Nigeria's independence, we're joined this morning by the 2023 Social Democratic Party's presidential candidate, Adewale Adebayo. Good morning, and thanks for joining us, Mr. Adebayo.
Good morning. God bless Nigeria. Happy independence to you all.
Happy independence to you as well.
I think we should start by, getting your quick analysis. If you did get to see the president's Independence Day speech, your quick thoughts on some of the things that he mentioned, and of course, if that also gave you a boost in your belief in Nigeria.
My belief in Nigeria is unshaken. Even a dull and drab presidential speech will not change that. The first thing to note is that today is a lucky day for us. It's a day of grace. Since 4 years ago, we got independence. And since then, we've remained independent. We've not been occupied by a foreign power. And we are grateful to God for an opportunity to celebrate and to recalibrate for our people. And it's a day of celebration. It's also a day where we show some grace to one another. So it is in that light that I listened to the speech of the president. It is not one of those inspiring speeches. I don't think the president is known for inspiring speeches, but today's own was a little off mark as well. So the essence of today's speech will have been to take account of our history, the importance of Independence Day and how we got here, and the challenges that we are facing, and then the hope for the future. And to show empathy to the people for what the people are obviously going through, and to inspire the people that all hope is not lost. But the speech was more of the regular manifesto and talking about their programs and lack of programs. So I think that speech is not one that will inspire anyone. However, everyone who is familiar with Nigeria and with our struggle should be able to make an inspiring speech to whoever is around them and to their family members and to all those who follow them, that Nigeria is a great country. We missed a lot of opportunity. We have missed, we're like a great team that has been playing a match for, say, 15 minutes, and we've missed like 200 chances. We still have the rest of the second half to go. We still have the first half to go. We still have the second half to go. So we still have time on our hands. We're a young country, 64 years of existence. We've missed so many opportunities. We are behind today in almost every sector, if we are to admit it. However, our prospects are even larger and bigger. So it's for us to be honest about where we are and stop pretending to be who we are not. At the same time, to not lose hope, to know that if we just change our ways, even for 4 years, where we will be phenomenal.
You've just said that, we need to be honest about where we are and we need to stop pretending. What does talking about where we honestly are right now look like? In terms of the current administration, the president in his speech did reel out some of the achievements that the administration has had in the past 16 months. And like you said, some would say that it was some form of a manifesto. But, talking about where we are, would you say that there's any ray of hope so far in how the country has been led in the past 16 months, or anything that you would say is maybe some general ray of hope in the administration's leadership?
Nigerians have to have hope in Nigeria despite the administration. Because if your hope depends on the administration, then you will be struggling to find that hope. In the sense that if you have a striker that is playing a match and has been given 10 penalty kicks in 10 minutes and has thrown all the 10 penalty kicks away, you start to wonder, are we going to ever win this match? But that's just one player out of 11 on the pitch. So other players have to pick it up and try to do what needs to be done. At least make sure that nobody scores against you if you can go home, equal. So that's what I see. You see, because the government is determined to waste all the opportunities. Every window of opportunity, they are ready to waste it. And this speech today is another waste because it's an opportunity to tap into the sentiments of Nigeria. October 1, I can see this fine lady dressed in green. I rarely do you dress in green, but you are caught up in the moment, so you are patriotic. And I see young people, those who are angry, carrying the flags around. It's an opportunity for the president to rally around. Today is a head of state function. That's why the president is the head of state, head of government, and commander-in-chief. He's not supposed to be head of government today, he's supposed to be head of state. So he will come and inspire everybody, no matter what your political party is, whatever what your ethnicity, religion, persuasion is, you are just now a Nigerian, and you didn't take advantage of that. That shows to you that you are a waster of opportunities. However, there is hope in Nigeria, and there is hope for Nigeria. And that hope is not based on just parroting it. That hope is because we are inherently designed to be great. Everything that you need to be great in economics, in geography, in development, is given to us in abundance. We are a country that can flare $1 trillion worth of gas away and still have $10 trillion of gas left in just one region alone. The entire potential of Nigerian gas industry is bigger than everything the Americans have built since 1776 when they got independence. So we have solid minerals that is bigger than the entire economy of China. So then we have manpower that is easy to train, that can rival India in about 10 years if we decide to train. So we have so many things. Our weather itself is what, in European terms, if Europeans were to have our kind of weather, it will cost them at least 17 trillion euros for them to get the kind of climate that we have. So I can go on and go on and go on. So, but it doesn't mean that lying on top of a gold mine makes you a goldsmith. Doesn't mean that having your house on a gas field makes you a petroleum expert. So the fact that you have rich farmland doesn't make you a farmer. So we have to make a decision to organize ourselves and to understand that politics is an attempt towards governance, and governance is an attempt towards allowing people to bring out their entire potential and productivity. But politics has become the beginning, the middle, and the end of all our enterprise. Yeah. And that is where we need to make some changes.
Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, a lot of people would agree with that, that we have people who are more invested in politics. Their major skill is how to play politics and how to win elections, but governance, it's just not a thing that they care that much about. Mr. Adeboye, I would ask that you quickly hold on. We're going to come back to you to have more conversations. But we want to bring in our correspondent, Austin Azu, who is in Delta State, to, of course, share with us, live a feed from what's going on there. Austin, good morning. Quickly go ahead. Let us know where you are exactly and what the situation is like over there.
Good morning. We are currently at the Interbar roundabout here in Asaba, Delta State capital. Behind me, you can see the presence of security personnel taking control precisely over the Interbar roundabout, where it used to be the convergent point for protesters and every other rally point for anyone who wants to protest in the state. Don't forget to that today, October 1st, is scheduled to be the beginning of the fearless protest across Nigeria. So obviously we cannot see anyone who seems to have come out to protest, but we have some pockets of individuals perceived to be government pro supporters, so they are hanging around this area. Seems like they are here to ensure that nobody comes out to protest. But by and large, the town and environment seems to be very peaceful. People are going about their normal businesses. Unlike in those days, the atmosphere has not depicted the celebration, which happens to be Independence Day. Unlike about 15 years ago, you will see all over the place the green and white depicting the color of the day. But currently, if we went through the city, we couldn't see anyone wearing the green and white. But obviously, that doesn't stop Nigerians being who they are. However, the state government has mapped out programs for today. So they will be going to the cenotaph this morning for the Independence Day parade alongside with service chiefs and other security agencies to mark the day here in Delta State.
All right, everything seems pretty calm in Delta State, and we would, of course, connect with you again before the end of the day to see how things are progressing, especially with the procession at to Cenotaph and, all the other things that will be happening today. Thank you very much, Austin, for joining us, and do stay well. Happy Independence Day once again. Right, we're going to a very quick break now. When we come back, more conversations. We're still joined by our guest who is exploring conversations about Nigeria's journey from where we were, where we are, and where we're headed to. Stay with us.
Welcome back. We're still joined this morning by Mr. Adewale Adebayo, and of course, X-ray Nigeria at 64.
What I've learned in politics is that people admire who they criticize, because one of the critics of Abacha was President Bola Tinubu, then Senator Bola Tinubu. But he goes to Abacha's playbook to find his own politics nowadays. So what he wants to do now is youth earnestly yearn for Tinubu. So he wants to have a youth conference, have youth do 30 days conference. They don't go to work. I think youth should be conferencing around employment. So by giving them job to do, the youth should be conferencing on the farms. They should be in call centers. They should be in hospitals. They should be in places where they can have gainful employment. That is a waste of time, because what the youths are protesting against is unemployment, poor education, lack of healthcare, lack of opportunities, and the misuse of police powers to harass them, and the amount of money that you are wasting in the period of austerity. Those are the things they are protesting. It's not to go and co-opt them into another wasteful venture. And if you look at all the conferences we've heard in the past, including 1994 Jamboree, the 2014 Jamboree of Constitutional Conference, none of it has come to light. So it's a waste of time. I think what is important for the country now is to actually show honesty. If we are going to talk about constitutional reform, you need to comply with the constitution you have now. And failure to conform and implement the constitution doesn't suggest to me that even if you amend the constitution, you are going to conform and implement the one you are going to have. So it's more important to be honest about what we are doing and get certain things right. For example, even the youths who are protesting, I always say that the best protest against a government in a democratic setting is to vote against them. So if you are going to be on the streets, where were you last week in Edo State? And where will you be next month in Ondo State? So the way to teach a government a bitter lesson or a sweet lesson in a civilian setting is to vote for or against them.
But Mr. Adebayo, the unfortunate thing that we're seeing here is that if we say that the youth shouldn't protest and head to the polls, because the polls is where the election polls is where they would register their dissent or their disapproval of an administration, the current reality we're seeing is that Nigerians don't seem to trust the polls. We've seen that even the elections in Edo State that you've just referred to have been heavily criticized. It's been criticized for being marred with irregularities. And, PDP has said, yes, that they will go to court. But beyond that, there have been reports of the results uploaded or the results announced completely different from what's done from EC8. So there's so many irregularities that have trailed that election. That shows us that in 2024, we still cannot carry out an election that will be seen as considerably free and fair, if not by all, but by the majority of citizens. So what then is the hope if we're seeing that people don't trust the elections and we're saying that they shouldn't be out to protest?
Okay, number one, every criticism of that election is correct. But the criticism must start with the low turnout to start with, because you cannot have less than 10% of the voters coming out. You cannot have such a small number and expect that manipulation will not dominate.
And I agree with you, but is that low turnout not some sort of a ripple effect from what we saw at the 2023 elections?
Well, even the 2023 election had a very low turnout, even before the ripple effect of it. What I'm letting us know is that election is not a government program. Election is a people's program. And this is the truth. And when we meet in my party and they lament about the problems of the election and all of that, I always say, where are our members? Where are we people? Why don't we come out? So the first thing to do is to come out. If you have 60%, 80% of the voters coming out, those who are buying votes, whether it's APC, whether it's PDP, both of them bought votes in Edo State. Well, both those two will go bankrupt because millions will come out. They can't buy everybody. Second, the cheating is going to be the beginning, because when you have massive turnout, then those who are cheating will have more difficulty cheating. And when those who come out to vote come out to defend their votes too, that makes it more difficult. Nothing is easy in a democracy. For example, if you don't trust elections, okay, do you trust protests? Because elections have made more changes than protests. We have been protesting since 1960. How many of the protests have changed anything? As a student union leader, I was protesting habitually when I was at IFE. We protested about everything, whether it concerned us or concerned South Africa, concerned somewhere. We're always protesting. And we don't stop protesting. So if you say that elections have been ruined in the past by INEC and government, and then we shouldn't vote again, that's wrong. We have to vote again, and we have to vote a large number. And one of the lessons we must learn is that INEC is in control of elections now, and that is what is wrong. Elections are not meant to be controlled by government institutions. They are meant to be dominated by the people. And the people, both voters and political parties. Why I'm bringing all of this up is that we need to make changes in this country. And government knows that people will protest and get tired, but on election day, they will still come and have their way. And when the government is democratically elected, quote and unquote, they have a kind of moral high ground to explain away their situation. And that is why when you come out to protest against an elected person, it will tell you, well, you are just a loud minority. So the way to show a strong majority is to express it through the ballot. And one advantage we have in Nigeria today is that they may do wrong collation, but the ballot papers are always there to show what actually happened at the polling booth. And
that was maybe the expectation in the 2023 election, and of course, if you follow the court cases that happened at the tribunal, I'm sure you must have also seen, how those ones played out. A lot of the rulings from the election tribunal were shocking to many Nigerians, including, of course, the eventual declaration for the FCT. So I think what we initially were trying to express, is that Nigerians generally, even though we understand your point and why it's important to participate, because if you don't participate, you can't argue. But there's a lot of, mistrust, and the faith in Nigeria's electoral process and its justice system, it's currently maybe the lowest that it has ever been. I don't think it was ever this bad, since 1999, even prior to 1999. And so it's left for the current administration, if they will, or the Nigerian people to demand that moves or steps must be taken to improve on our justice system and our electoral process. Don't you agree with that?
I agree with the fact that we need to improve on our justice system, on our electoral system. And you have appeared on your show on many occasions where I predicted what the outcome of the judicial investigations will be regarding election. And they turn out to be exactly that way. So I'm not shocked as many Nigerians are shocked because of the way the law has been written, and the law is written by people who are supposed to be elected by Nigerians. And if you look at the Electoral Act that we are supposed to use in 2027, people need to start paying attention to those. But to rely on this administration to initiate any reform that is going to weaken their hold on power is to hope for too much. I think the agitation will come from the people. However, there is enough room in the current system that we have for people to use elections to make statements. And the idea that election has a problem somewhere, as a result of that, I've lost interest in it. That's exactly what they want. They want to demoralize voters. So they will go out of their way to do certain things to your face and in your face to let you say, oh, you know what, I give up. Many things that they are doing sloppily for you to see, they are doing it to let you know that, to let you have the feeling that, oh, no matter what I do, the result has been predetermined. But they cannot sustain this for long. They are counting on the fact that majority are generally disinterested. And that when you have 83, 85, 87 million voters, and less than 20 million come out, and when you have 3 million voters in a state, and less than 500,000 come out, they know that people are just pontificating, the majority don't care.
Yeah, so I mean, while I agree because we need to wrap up. You know, I agree that Nigerians need to, as much as, you know, it might be depressing, they need to continue to, you know, be a part of the process, you know, because that seems to be the only way to effect any change. I want to ask something. You know, if you can squeeze your thoughts into a minute, we'll really appreciate it. The president got into office, you know, with the Olukonii slogan, you know, it's my turn. And many people interpreted it as it is his turn and also it's the turn of the Yorubas. Do you think his administration, you know, even in the slightest way, will change the narrative with regards how Yorubas have handled the affairs of Nigeria? And is that a concern for you as a Yoruba man as well?
Well, I do not play Yoruba politics, and I don't think that ethnic politics or ethnic identification is necessary for politics. It is not only President Tinubu who said the Olukonii, he said it, but other people are saying too. The other candidates who are saying it's the turn of my own place, turn of my own. That anybody who tells you that, that shows to you that the person has nothing to offer. The way the country is today, we have over 500 ethnic groups. So if everybody was to take turn for their ethnic group to come to power, then some will wait for half a millennium. What's important is that our Constitution has Chapter 2 of the Constitution. And that Chapter 2, fundamental objective and directive principle of state policy. It doesn't matter what your ethnicity is. If you follow that Chapter 2, you will guarantee good government, even if you have no talent, even if you are not highly talented as a person. If you follow what is provided in Chapter 2 of the Constitution, you will do social and economic justice. You would invest in education, in housing, in health care, and you would create employment, and you will create a sense of belonging for everybody participating in the economy. That way, people will forget about your lack of talent or where you come from. They will see the benefit of governance, and that is what we need to do. As for ethnic groups and where they meet, where they plan, I really don't have much respect for that. I am more interested that government must have a governance model that is written in the Constitution, because the Constitution is the fundamental contract. That is why somebody can call himself president and lord it over me. Somebody can say he's a chief justice and sentence somebody to death. All these powers are written in a contract. And if you don't comply with that contract to give good governance, you have no legitimacy and authority to rule over another person. And that is what we need to focus on.
Adewale Adebayo, thank you so much for your time with us. It's been quite a conversation that we've had, and we look forward to having you join us again. And happy Independence Day.
Happy Independence, and God bless Nigeria.
God bless Nigeria.
Right, we went into the streets of Nigeria to ask Nigerian citizens what they think about the Independence Day celebration, how they feel generally, and here's what they had to say.
People are suffering, and apart from that, there are no job for youths, no job for the graduates, so our rate is low. Our own kind of democracy is a caricature. It's an insult to that word democracy, because we are not seeing it here. So it's even better we go back to the military regime.
head of state. So it's better. I believe that with that, Nigeria can really find a way forward. Which way Nigeria?
It doesn't worth it. So because of the situation in Nigeria, Nigeria is a crisis because everybody is afraid for what is happening now. And if nobody is proud to be in Nigeria anymore, and me myself, I'm not happy about Nigeria. So the way everything is going, that's this government to retire. They don't know what they are doing. So I don't have too much to say that allow Nigeria to be the way they're supposed to be. They are going back. What we practice is disaster. Since court cannot obey the law, since court, nobody is above the mistake, but in Nigeria, everybody is doing the way he wants. He can do anything and go free. He steal billion and go free. He kill somebody and go free. Nothing work for the law for Nigeria.
Personally, let me relate Nigeria to individual, because you discover that there are some people who, even despite their challenges, when they clock a year, they still thank God. So I want to believe that in all things we thank God. Don't let me be spiritual anyway. But however, when you look at, yes, the economy is downtown. There is a problem here and there, but there is a cause to celebrate. At least for the fact that there is no war in Nigeria, though kidnappings, many, that one really think of and not be happy with, but notwithstanding, it was celebrating.
Nothing to celebrate. What do you want to celebrate? What? You see, everything costs. You don't need to celebrate anything. If you do possible, let people stay at home. So you should not go anywhere. There's no democracy at all. No anything democracy.
Well, I think that just reflects the mindset of a number of Nigerians, and that's a thought process that is spread across board. People are finding it difficult to make ends meet. People are complaining about the corruption that abounds. I remember one of the women there said, at least there is no war. That's one angle to look at it from, but we still have a long way to go when it comes to insecurity. When we had our guest earlier in the show, they talked about road travel. I personally will not go on a road trip. Right now, if I can't afford to buy a ticket, I will not go. I will sit down in my house. Yeah. So, and that's the reality. You see people making jokes that when you want to budget how much you would pay for road transport, you should in a measure keep aside your money for ransom in case. You know, and this is not the reality of what we want our country to be. Yeah. So it's not quite the Independence Day celebration that we had hoped for. No matter how low-key the government wants to celebrate or not celebrate it, Nigerians are not happy, and that is what the reality is. Which is true. Yeah, I mean, celebrating the fact that there's no war, there's never been talk of war. I mean, at least not in the last, 20-something years, since 1999. Well, maybe they will say that, like, during the elections, there were threats of, there have been threats of the fabrics of the country completely breaking apart. But it just feels like what we have is something that is still being managed. Right? Saying, there's no war is like barest minimum, but yeah. Yeah, for me, it's not, she has a right to express herself, but, I don't think that anybody has really had a fear that there would be a war, so we should celebrate that there's no war. Since, of course, civil war, ended, there's never really been any, major feeling of fears. Not that you mentioned that the civil war was really, that was the thing. Anyway, let's speak with Chinwe. We're going to come back and then I'll share my thoughts, on the 64 years discussion this morning. We have Chinwe Ugele, who's somewhere in the southeastern part of Nigeria this morning, also to share with us, what the situation is like over there. Good morning, Chinwe. Tell us where exactly you are. Seems like you're in Abia State. Where exactly are you and what's going on over there?
I am at the government house here in Umuahia, Abia State capital. Where final preparations are being made for the low-key celebration that the state government had mooted a few days ago. So it's just the celebration. Expectedly, the governor, who is not currently in town, will be around before 11 a.m. when they have scheduled the program. He'll be flying in from Abuja today. So, but they have said that there's going to be a low-key celebration. So, yesterday we heard the security people having a rehearsal So there's going to be a parade here today. But then inside town, there's nothing happening as it is happening in Abuja and Lagos, where people are said to be protesting. Here in Abia State, just like during the End Bad Governance protests, no such thing is happening right now, at least for the moment. There's no protest. Everywhere is calm.
Abia State seems to be shielded from, maybe not totally, but in a measure shielded from some of the realities that the rest of the parties, the rest of the country seems to be agitating against. What is the mood and the sense like? Yes, there's no protest, but how do the people feel about the Independence Day celebration? How do they feel about how your governor has run the state in the past, couple of months?
Well, it's a mixed feeling, because you get the people who want to applaud the governor for what he has done in the last 16 months. And then you also get the other people who also feel he hasn't done enough. Then you also get the majority of the citizens of the state who talk about the backwardness of the nation, Nigeria. So they tend to feel that Nigeria at 64 should have gone way beyond where it is right now, because as a 64-year-old man, you are supposed to be a grandfather, and you should be nurturing your grandchildren. So, and before you become a grandfather, you would have nurtured your own children. So what they are saying, that what Nigeria has given to the children, to its children, is actually pain. That is the mindset of a lot of people down here. So it's not that they are removed or distracted from what is happening in the other parts of the country, but just that when it comes to the protest aspect, they feel it has not yielded much results. So no need, being part of it anymore, because the government is not listening and would not listen even with one protest.
Yeah. All right, Chinwe, and just to clarify, there's no time for grandfatherness. It can happen at any time, okay? Don't...
Chinwe is putting pressure.
Be very careful this morning.
Chinwe,
okay?
thank you. Chinwe said at 64, you should be a grandfather. And my guy is already doing calculations. Now, how many more years does he have? To 64. And their children have not even confessed before we talk of grandchildren.
Please, okay? So that you don't ruin our relationship in this office. Anyway, thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll speak with you again. Let's take a very short break, and when we come back, we continue discussions this morning on Nigeria's Independence Day.
As we work to overcome the challenges of the day, we remain mindful of next generation as we seek to galvanize their creative energy towards a better future. We lead today with the future we wish to bequeath to our children in focus, recognizing that we cannot design a future that belongs to them without making them its architects. Considering this, I am pleased to announce the gathering of a national youth conference. This conference will be a platform to address the diverse challenges and opportunities confronting our young people, who constitute more than 60% of our population. It will provoke meaningful dialogue and empower our young people to participate actively in nation building by ensuring that their voices are heard in shaping the policies that impact their lives. We are creating a pathway for a brighter tomorrow. The 30-day confab will unite young people nationwide to collaboratively develop solutions to issues such as education, employment, innovation, security, and social justice. The modality of this confab and selection of delegates will be designed in close consultation with our young people through their representatives. Through this confab, It will be our job as leaders to ensure that their aspirations.
Yes, of course, excerpts from the president's Independence Day speech earlier today. Now, 64 years after independence, Nigeria sure boasts of a vibrant diaspora community who are not only relevant to the nation, but also continue to represent their nationality brightly abroad. Now, on Saturday, September 28th, News Central TV hosted an international town hall meeting in New York, United States of America, with the Nigerian diaspora community. It was a vital event to discuss ways for Nigeria to advance beyond its current status and join the ranks of over 130 nations worldwide that grant their non-resident citizens the right to vote.
With millions of Nigerians residing in the diaspora, the Nigerian diaspora is considered one of the largest and most influential. Their financial and intellectual contributions are often acknowledged, but their potential political influence, particularly in voting, remains underutilized. Beyond voting, how well can Nigeria harness the power of its citizens in the diaspora? Well, joining us this morning to discuss this is Global Affairs Analyst AGK Okpara. Good morning from Nigeria, and happy Independence Day to you from Nigeria. What's the celebration looking like for Nigerians in the diaspora? Are there any celebrations?
Thank you for having me. It's 3:27 a.m. in the morning, so I guess when we wake up, we'll see whatever, if there's any celebration. I guess Nigerians are not used to doing things on work days, so they will wait till the weekend when there will be a whole lot of other things, going on. So, but again, 64 years is not 64 days. So the question is to be asked, what are the glaring examples? What are the shining examples Nigeria has shown to the world? I am not somebody who is too thrilled about the special class, attention given to Nigerians who have left the shores of Nigeria. It's good to acknowledge them, but how about the millions of Nigerians that are in Nigeria that need the attention and the focus of their various leadership class? It's good to host a town hall meeting, but what does that really portend? A lot of these Nigerians putting their stuff in a U-Haul across the pond going on to participate. I mean, we've had Nigerians who have returned. Tinubu himself is known to have lived in abroad. His chief of staff is known to have lived abroad. So many of them. But with all of those things, and when they get home, what do? How has Nigeria benefited from, education and the knowledge of gained abroad? So I am one that is focused on the things you have immediate attention on, as opposed to the Nigerian who has left. Me personally, I visit Nigeria 2-3 times a year, but I will never come back to live in Nigeria. But I will work with Nigerians who live in Nigeria, because what you want to do with people outside of your shores is to build a bridge so that things can flow back and forth. The first Nigerian is recorded, a Calabar man from Hoopardale Institute, to have entered America in 1918. That is 4 years after amalgamation. So anybody who came before them wasn't known as a Nigerian, because Nigeria didn't exist. But so 146 years after that, Zik, the first Nnamdi Azikiwe, the first Nigerian to bear the title of president, came to America 101 years ago. What has all of that meant for Nigeria? So you have Nigerian Americans, you have an American Nigerians. That is, those born here who are of Nigerian ancestry, by parents, either single or both parents. What has all of that done for Nigeria? Electricity came to Nigeria 64 years before independence. America got electricity 106 years after independence. So 128 years after electricity has existed in Nigeria. Where is Nigeria with all the PhDs and doctors and professors that come out, engineers of this engineer? How come that single infrastructure that helps to enable quality of life still elude Nigerians? So you get all these things, you get on stage, presidents make speeches, they form this youth organization, they form, at the end of the day, what is the outcome? How come the human resources that are resident in Nigeria that have the capacity have not been enabled by the government in order to do this. You know, all this talk about Nigerians abroad. I live in the United States of America. The way immigrants are measured are by census tract and zip code. There is no census tract in America that Nigerians dominate. Then, because all the census tracts make up the zip code. So where is it? Where is the Nigerians? It's not just parading degrees and showing degrees. No, Nigerians don't own any bank in America. Nigerians haven't built any significant real estate in America. They have good homes, they have good jobs. But when you trade in hours for dollar in America, you don't own America. You have to own a piece of America. You have to be engaged in the American political process. You have to serve. Our politics in America is all local. So how many Nigerians actually understand the political structure of the cities and regions where they live? A lot of them don't even know. Ask many Nigerians, what's the difference between the mayor of Dallas and the mayor of Houston? These are two cities in the same state. And I can tell you 99% wouldn't know what to say. But they come home and they impress, you know, mostly ignorant Nigerians that have been in America, and everybody jumps up and down. The only thing that's giving that Nigerian in America a sense of significance is the exchange rate of the dollar to the naira. If you remove that, 95% of Nigerians in America have nothing to contribute to pop that country to its potential. I mean, this is my personal views, and I can back it up with facts because I live here. I've lived in the same zip code and telephone number since 37 years I've been in America. I ran for office. I haven't won, but I haven't lost anything. Today, I'm building the first 25 stories, high-rise, to be built by a group of Nigerians. The architect is a Nigerian Yoruba boy. You know, the other guy is from Edo, the other guy is Yoruba. I'm Igbo. So I don't see the tribal things that oftentimes persuade Nigerians from their engagement. But we're going to do that. We're going to do that project. We're going to raise the money. In fact, yesterday, the U.S. government approved what we call the regional center, the first of its kind to be owned by Nigerians in America. That's what you do in the country that you have put more than half. How many people are going to live to be 54 years? You know, but we still did these things and we do back and forth. My mom told me, why are you eating plantain? Why are you jealous of a man eating a yama? Focus on what it is you can do, get a joy out of it, and then stop chasing things. Yeah. Let's have a good garden and the butterflies will come. Yeah. Nigerians haven't built that garden to attract things. You know, they get Indians to come over there, run circles around them, Pakistanis to do that, Chinese. These are people from C countries. If you're a student and you want to copy from a good student, you don't copy from a C student, you copy from an A student. So Nigeria copies from everybody. Nigeria has no index of nations to persuade them to say, hey, if you're not coming from these countries, we don't want to talk to you. But they take from everybody. Russia gives them, they're jumping up and down. Pakistan gives them, they're jumping up and down. At what time do you create that, what they call in economics, barrier to entry, in order for you to create value for yourself?
All right, Zakpa, I mean, you have very, very strong views on the diaspora community and, you know, how much better they should do. I would like that we switch the conversation into something else. You know, one of the things that was mentioned in the diaspora town hall that was held by New Central TV in New York was diaspora voting. You know, and we saw that the head of NIDCOM, Abike Dabiri, mentioned you know, the need for diaspora voting, you know, to be implemented at some point. But before we get you to share your thoughts on that, let's quickly bring in Bettina Nweli, who is, of course, is in Ikeja, I believe, also monitoring the protest over there. Bettina, welcome back. Quickly give us updates. What's going on in Ikeja this morning? All right. While we try to connect once again with our correspondent, remember there is a protest going on in Ikeja this morning. Bettina, welcome once again. Quickly go ahead. Let us know what's going on in Ikeja this morning.
All right, so the protest has started moving. You can see people parading the streets and walking down to create awareness on what their demands are for this particular protest on October the 1st, 2024, which is supposed to be the 64th independence of Nigeria. Now, if you look behind me, you can see different people, civil society organizations. We also have Comrade Showore in the mix as well. He came here to make sure that he becomes part of the protest in Nigeria. I want to approach him and see whether he has anything to say regarding what is going on here regarding the protest. Good morning, sir. You are live on News Central TV. Can you tell us what this protest is? All right, they've demanded that the media gives them space. They are not ready to speak, but you can see the team of people behind us. How many people have joined the protest from Ikeja under bridge while we walk and create awareness to let Nigerian government know that the people are not happy. They have complained about hunger. They have complained about health care. They have complained about the inability to feed their families. And that is why people are gathered here today, holding up placards to explain the gravity of the situation in terms with the economy and how bad it has gotten. On a day like this where we are supposed to be celebrating, Nigerians are expressing their unhappiness about what they feel about the state of the country today.
All right. Any police presence or security, presence of security agencies over there? All right. Kindly confirm if there is a presence of security agents over there monitoring the protest so far.
All right. It doesn't seem like we are hoping that we can reconnect with Bettina and bring you more updates from Ikeja. We're still joined by Mr. Ejike Okpa, who's joining us from the United States of America. We're having conversations about Nigerians in the diaspora. And I want you to react to this, Mr. Ejike. You can see that Nigerians are protesting. Bettina and Willie is in the street bringing us updates. In different pockets, in different parts of the country, there are protests that are springing up against the current realities. What is it like, for the Nigerians in the diaspora? Are you able to directly connect to what exactly is going on here? And do you think that the Nigerians in the diaspora, maybe not all, but is there a general support for the protests that are going on, as well as the protests that happened in August?
Thank you for the question. I was in Nigeria when that protest in August started. I came back August 3rd, so I got there in July. And then, as to the question of support, the Nigerians abroad are frustrated because, because of the condition at home, what has happened is that you're constantly getting a call from your family members, hey, I need money for school fees, my rent is due, my landlord's about to kick me out. So these things create, undue pressure, undue psychological, emotional distortion in the life of Nigerians abroad. And then, you see the remittances. When you're doing economic development, for those of us that are involved in it, remittances have no positive score. Those are money given to families to sustain and survival. What actually you want to see from the Nigerian abroad is sector investment. So has Nigerian abroad, have they come together and said, okay, we're going to invest billions of dollars, for the power or the road construction or the things that are good for common good? But no, they haven't done it. So everybody says money. I can tell you how many thousands I have sent a year, but that is just to support my family members. So what really needs to happen is to strengthen the economic conditions at home and take on the 37 men that are abusing Nigeria, the president and 36 states. There's nothing that will happen to that country except the structure of the government is reversed to where the president is totally irrelevant. Nigeria is a top-heavy democracy, and it's a waterfall. So whatever the president says, nobody opposes him. When the president even does a press conference, nobody asks questions. The same thing with the governors. So what you want to do is have Nigerians be able to engage them. Every politics is local. And so if you look at that, you go to Lagos State. Lagos State is the smallest real estate in Nigeria, only occupying 1,200 square miles. But Lagos has no sewer system. It has no subway. It's a filthy, smelly dump that even CNN has acknowledged so many decades ago. But what is any governor doing? We check on there, 79 was the governor. He used not to smile, and people say, why are you not ever smiling? He said, if you're governor of Lagos State, why should you smile? So these are the things that needs to happen. And Lagos wasn't something that popped up yesterday. Lagos has been in existence since the 18th century, and is still a very bad, it's still an eyesore. When you fly into Lagos, are there two airports? That Ikeja Murtala Mohammed Airport is just sad case, physical sad case, because this is why it's physical sad case. The airport is the first and the last impression foreigners have of the country. If Nigeria perception for Nigeria were to be assigned into what one sees at Ikeja Airport, that country is below par. But nobody has a shame. You have everybody talking about having a private plane and doing all of this. You have to focus on what the 95% of Nigerians are concerned about. That's what any responsive leadership needs to do. Tinubu hasn't done it. The guy before him, Yaradua, didn't do it. Obasanjo is the one that is responsible for a lot of the things going on in Nigeria, because when he came back in 1979, instead of him, propping up the country, during Obasanjo, Nigeria made the most money in revenue in oil, $70-something billion in 2006. Yeah. But look at it. So if you were to chart the revenue Nigeria makes from when it started selling oil, 2006 was the highest. Since then, it has come down. So what did Obasanjo do? Obasanjo is the one that started this, select me, hand me down kind of leadership. He didn't step aside. He forced Yaradua Nigeria with Jonathan. And then since then, it has become this. And then Tinubu came in and said, oh, it's my turn, it's my turn. The Nigerian people should resist that. The Nigerian people should go by the ballot and say, if we don't elect you, we're not going to select you. Nigeria has a selection process. Please, how can it be the most populous black nation in the world that has the most educated, the most degree, is still where Nigeria is? It should be something that concerns everybody. And then we're running after China. We're running after everybody to lend us money. You can never borrow yourself into prosperity. You have to strengthen your local currency. And then you have to make the conditions available for people to borrow and pay back. That is what gingers growth. What makes a wealth is equity and debt. In Nigeria, you don't have a whole lot of debt. You have a lot of equity. And that equity are money stolen from the public. Yeah. And everybody celebrates it.
Yeah. Again, pretty sad. But quickly, I was asking earlier before we went to our correspondent about diaspora voting. Would you push for it? Do you think it's important that, Nigerians all around the world living in diaspora take part in Nigeria's electoral process? How much change do you think that would bring? And, do you think maybe that the exposure that these people have in those parts of the world would, be able to direct, what the voting patterns would be if they're allowed to vote?
I think the choice of voting, it should be allowed. I voted in Nigeria. The last time I voted was when I was doing my youth service in 1983 or something like that. Now you guys can tell how old I am. But the point is, why are you again creating a special class for Nigerians abroad? The relevant Nigerians abroad are basically not going to be no more than 3 or 4 countries. That is US, UK, Canada, or something like that. The Nigerian in Russia has no idea about how voting works because they don't vote over there. The one in China or the one in Pakistan. So who are this Nigerian diaspora? And then when you come to America, the number of native-born Nigerians in America, because my son is a Marine officer in China, he ain't going to be voting in Nigeria. My daughter is, they ain't going to be voting. Those people are out. So me, I'm the only one who was born in Nigeria. Am I going to vote in Nigeria? The chances are not it's going to happen. So what you want to do is you focus on the native Nigerian. How many of them? There are less than 600,000 of native Nigerians in America. So how is that going to make any difference? If you want to vote, you vote where when the vote is counted, then you step up on the responsibility of being what America say, be present to win. You can't just vote and be out. So, I think it's a distraction, to now say, oh, Nigerians abroad vote. you don't have that many millions. And then it's going to enable fraud because they can now come and say, oh, 5 million Nigerians in America voted. Where is the 5 million?
Yeah, but
so,
the statistics show that there are about 17 million Nigerians in diaspora.
I'm sorry, 17 million where?
In diaspora. I mean, if you just do a quick Google search, it shows here that it's about 17 million as of 2024 from the International Organization of Migration, IOM. It says about 17 million Nigerians in diaspora.
Yes, but I'm just saying, where are they? They're all over
different countries. I mean, for example, the United States has the highest population. United Kingdom, is next. Italy, United Arab Emirates, Brazil, Germany, Canada.
Again, that is all good. 17 million as a percentage of what? Of the 200 and something million you have. I'm just saying, how are you going to structurally organize that vote? Are they going to mail? Is that going to be a mail-in ballot? Is it going to be electronically done? And are you going to provide that? Are you going to now go to wherever Nigerians live and they're going to vote through what their post office or their polling stations? How do you really do that? Or are they going to have to come home and vote and then turn around and leave? I'm just saying it's a misplaced priority. You create the opportunity. If you want to vote, here's how you're going to vote. But it's not going to make any difference because remember, in a democracy, after the vote is counted, there's also the administrative structure. What is the administrative structure for the Nigerian democracy? How is that helping Nigeria get ahead? It's not just physically voting. For me, I vote in every election in America, but how do I make my presence known? I serve on boards and commissions. I participate. I just hosted the governor of Texas in my home 3-4 days ago. I'm an appointee of the governor. I'm part of the process of making this happen. So let us, it's a good thing. You're encouraging Nigerians to participate. But again, you have to get to the mental stage of the Nigerian abroad. How many of them are thinking of, okay, I'm voting? A lot of them are so consumed in their own personal circumstances, they don't even know when the vote is. Do you know many Nigerians don't even know how many states they have? My uncle came here in 1975. I can tell you, if you ask him how many states are in Nigeria, he only would tell you the ones he knows in 1975 when he left. So we keep driving all this Nigeria and creating us, class something as if making them look like they are the most important aspect. The people in Nigeria are the most aspect. So what you may want to do is if you do that and there's a tie, then you can now go to the foreigners, those who are outside and see how many, if that's going to make a difference. Right. But if you look at a bulk of Nigerians that are abroad, they're from the southern states, the Igbos, the Yorubas, and most Hausa people are not here. They don't care because, they stay at home, they are not well educated, they are not more exposed, so they get everything they already know. So the bulk of Nigerian migration, or those who are going to be counting on, are the people from the southern states. And then when you even do that, how many of them are really paying attention? The people that you need to pay attention to, or you need to get the attention, are the people in Nigeria, are the Nigerians. If you can get the election to work properly, to where it's not all these, the ballot boxes are stuffed and they said, this person has been, consensus candidate, this step aside for this person to do it. It's still going to create the tension. So I welcome the idea, but I'm not voting. I'm not going to vote. You see, I'm an American citizen. There are certain things I can do. I will violate the oath of citizenship for America because I'm a public figure. I serve, but I will support Nigeria for anything. What is the governor before this guy in Lagos? I wrote him a policy proposal on how to get a water system in Lagos. I even did that when Namani was governor of Enugu State. All right, I said, let's have a statewide something. So this is the thing you want to tap from the diaspora, not for them to come and, vote. What economic project can they bring back home? Can you go and woo Nigerians that are doing something? I'm building a semiconductor plant in part of Dallas that it has never been done. It's a $1.5 billion project in a black neighborhood. It has never existed. The reason I'm able to do it because I understand the economic policies of the state and I'm able to get the political support. So that's what you want to do.
Yeah, the current reality that we have for now, Nigerians in diaspora cannot vote. So even as we continue to explore these conversations, there are those who believe that it's something that should be looked at, especially as we count down to 2027 elections. But thank you so much for joining us and sharing your thoughts regarding the Independence Day. And once again, happy Independence Day to you and all the Nigerians in the diaspora.
I hope when you are independent, you actually act unindependent.
Yeah.
You know, so to get it right, because it's about time. Thank you guys for what you do. I wish Nigeria well, and I think Nigeria will be well if we change our mindset. There's this thing that go on with us.
Yeah.
Poverty of mind is more dangerous than poverty of means. Nigeria has means, but they have poverty of mind.
Well,
change that, and you could see a lot of good things happen.
Thank you very much. You as well. Sleep well. In recent times, there have been growing calls for a new constitution in Nigeria. And as the nation marks its 64th independence anniversary, we reflect on Nigeria's democratic journey and examine whether adopting a new constitution could help address the country. Now, News Central's Joshua Imarayi delves into the key issues and sheds more light on the ongoing debate.
Nigeria's constitutional history is marked by key milestones: the 1960 Independence Constitution, the 1979 Constitution, and the 1999 Constitution. Each has had its challenges and controversies, with many outlining several flaws that have hampered the nation's development. The 1999 Constitution in particular has been at the center of criticisms for its emergence through a military regime.
When you look at the people who gave us the Constitution, the military, the process wasn't very people inclusive.
And because it was the military that drafted the Constitution, it cannot be said to be a true representation of the intent of the letters of the Constitution.
What matters is whether those words, one, they are strong, compelling words that can be a mission statement for a democratic, modern state.
Today, debates around checks and balances, federalism, and a host of other missing ingredients have been highlighted as areas of required attention.
The question around exclusive list. Clarity will have to allow states do more, and again that brings the issue of federalism. The Nigerian Federal Constitution speaks also in a very conflicting way.
Power is too concentrated. Let me give you a simple analogy of the issue of the ever ongoing debate around state policing, where the federal government controls the activities of policing nationwide. It boils more about building institutions rather than, whether state policing will be hijacked by the governors or the critical stakeholders in the locality or not. If we focus on building strong institutions, then state policing will work perfectly.
The character of Nigerian political economy, you end up always having one dominant political view. So the multiple parties are in bed on one thing. And so it can't be a National Assembly that has check and balance. First, the leadership consider themselves as an extension of the executive branch of government.
Also, eminent head of statesmen have called on Nigeria's president to accede to the cause of citizens, saying the current constitution being practiced has outlived its usefulness.
So we came to convey this view that Nigeria needs a people's democratic constitution.
Every assembly since 1999 has attempted to review or revise the Constitution. It is either there is something fundamentally wrong with the Constitution, or that we are a people that are incapable of trusting one another and of being governed with a set of basic laws, except everything is written in black and white.
While the calls for a new constitution have become louder in recent years, there have been mixed reactions on the possibility of who will lead the charge to adopt a new constitution.
The recent performance of National Assembly doesn't give hope of any serious work happening there. But look, what they mean is this, and they're right. We have a democracy, quote unquote, in a formal sense. So when you elect leaders, or they elect themselves, or they lead themselves to power, the general presumption that you have a democratic leader has legitimacy. And so, if you're going to make change, they should be the ones making change. So the argument will be, you guys, you have legislators. Every state in Nigeria has 3 senators, and maybe more than 12, 11, or 5 or 6 reps, depending on the size of those states. So they will tell you, those are the guys you should go and talk to. Let them raise a motion to amend this constitution, to suspend it, they control the legislative authority, which is the authority to make rules.
Assuming without conceding that your assertion that the representatives truly represent the people, then they should be able to convene a sovereign national conference, right? However, when the people who are supposed to be the representatives of the people do not really represent the people, where they have stolen elections like we have just witnessed in Edo.
These people, the first thing they did when they got into that house is to buy themselves new cars. Those are the people you want to negotiate on your behalf? I'm sorry, no.
Many believe that key stakeholders, including the three tiers of government, the active civil society and citizens, must take responsibility for addressing Nigeria's constitutional challenges. They say addressing these issues can build a more stable, just and prosperous future. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imarayi.
All right. Thank you very much, Joshua Imarayi, for that very interesting report. A majority of the conversations are all about Nigeria's Independence Day today. We celebrate 64 years. And just before we wrap up, I think it's important to just quickly mention that the conversation concerning, how we're still a baby democracy, a lot of countries are, 250-year-old democracies, and that's why that's where they are. I feel that's a very lazy excuse. It's a very, very lazy and sad excuse for us, because we're not practicing democracy in a vacuum. We didn't invent democracy. We've copied a democracy that has been in existence for hundreds of years. And so if we have copied it, what has stopped us from being able to simply look at what's going on in those places we copied it from and, remodel it, maybe, pretty much do the same thing. So it's a lazy excuse, and I think people should drop it. I don't want to hear it next year or ever again.
Anyway, thank you very much for joining us. Happy Independence Day, Nigeria. We know it's not quite the Independence Day you hoped for, we're celebrating, but we do hope that we can have a country that's truly independent of poverty, corruption, bigotry, lack of accountability and transparency on the part of our leaders, and that we can have a country that we're truly proud to call the Giant of Africa. We'll continue to broadcast in the next few minutes. All through the day, the conversations will be about Nigeria's independence, and we'll be bringing you live updates of the protest as well. Absolutely. We'll see you tomorrow. I am Olive Emodi.
And I am Osaogi Ogbawan. Blessings Mosugu and Mazino Appeal take over to continue live broadcasting on Nigeria's Independence Day.
Bye-bye.